Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub, and before we dive in, I want you to take a deep breath because what you are about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your pocket, your car's cup holder, your old piggy bank, or that dusty jar on your grandmother's shelf, because right now, right at this very moment, there could be a tiny little dime, just 10 cents, a coin that most people flip into vending machines or leave behind on store counters. Without a second thought, hiding an absolutely jaw-dropping, life-changing, mansion-buying secret that the vast majority of the world has absolutely no idea about. And we are talking about the 2001 Roosevelt Dime, a coin so extraordinary, so breathtakingly rare in its most perfect error form, that collectors and numismatic experts have valued certain specimens of this coin at an almost unbelievable $9 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $9 million for a dime, a coin. That was designed to be worth just 10 cents. A coin that billions of people have held in their hands and never thought twice about. And yet here we are, talking about a version of this coin that could literally rewrite someone's entire financial future overnight. So if you are the kind of person who has ever dreamed about finding hidden treasure, about stumbling across something priceless in the most ordinary of places, then you need to stay right here with us today because this story is going to blow your mind completely. And I also want to tell you right now that we have got another coin coming up later in this video that is so shocking, so unbelievably valuable, that even veteran coin collectors were left absolutely speechless when they first heard about it. So do not even think about clicking away because you will absolutely regret it if you miss what is coming. But first, let us talk about this extraordinary 2001 Roosevelt Dime and uncover every single secret this tiny coin is hiding. To truly understand why this coin is so special, we need to go back to the year 2001, a time when the United States Mint was operating at full speed, producing hundreds of millions of coins every single year to meet the enormous demand of a thriving economy, and the Denver Mint, identified by that small letter D stamped on the coin, was one of the busiest minting facilities in the entire country, pumping out dimes by the millions every single day, day after day, shift after shift, machine after machine, and in that kind of high-volume, high-pressure production environment, something absolutely fascinating can happen, something that the Mint tries desperately to prevent, something that quality control teams work around the clock to catch and eliminate, but every now and then, against all odds, a mistake slips through, a glorious, incredible, fortune-creating mistake. And that is exactly what happened with the most valuable versions of the 2001 Roosevelt Dime, coins that escaped the Mint with errors so dramatic, so visually stunning, so numismatically significant, that the collectors who eventually got their hands on them knew immediately they were holding something extraordinary. Now let us talk about the Roosevelt Dime itself, because this coin has a rich and deeply meaningful history that makes it all the more special to collectors and historians alike. The Roosevelt Dime was first introduced in 1946, just 1 year after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, one of the most beloved and transformative presidents in American history, a man who led the United States through the darkest days of the Great Depression and guided the nation through the monumental challenges of World War II. And the dime was chosen specifically as the coin to honor his legacy because of his deeply personal connection to the March of Dimes, a charitable organization originally founded to combat polio, the devastating disease that had paralyzed Roosevelt himself and that he fought tirelessly to help eradicate. And so from 1946 onward, every single dime produced by the United States Mint has carried the portrait of FDR on its obverse, his distinguished profile facing to the left, and on the reverse you will find a torch symbolizing liberty, an olive branch representing peace, and an oak branch standing for strength and independence. And this design, created by the incredibly talented chief engraver John R. Cynic, has remained essentially unchanged for decades, which makes it all the more remarkable when something goes dramatically wrong during the minting process and a coin emerges looking nothing like it should. The Denver Mint in 2001 was a facility steeped in history and tradition, located in the heart of Colorado, a mint that had been producing coins since 1906 and had struck billions upon billions of coins over the decades. And in the year 2001 alone, the Denver Mint produced over 1 billion Roosevelt Dimes, 1 billion coins, all intended to look exactly alike, all intended to be perfect, uniform, and unremarkable, but perfection at that scale is nearly impossible to guarantee 100% of the time, and buried somewhere within that ocean of identical dimes were a tiny handful of coins that were anything but ordinary. The error that transforms a standard 2001 Roosevelt dime into a $9 million treasure is something that numismatists, which is the fancy word for coin collectors and experts, absolutely obsess over, and it comes in several devastating and beautiful forms that each tell a story of something going magnificently wrong at exactly the right moment. One of the most dramatic and valuable error types associated with coins of this era is the double die error, where the hub that imprints the design onto the die strikes it more than once at a slightly different angle, creating a coin where letters, numbers, and design elements appear doubled, blurred, or dramatically shifted, giving the coin an almost dreamlike quality that immediately signals to any experienced collector that something extraordinary has occurred. And on a 2001 dime with a strong double die obverse, you might see Roosevelt's portrait showing a ghostly doubled image, the lettering of Liberty or I in God We Trust appearing dramatically shifted and layered, and the date itself showing a clear and unmistakable doubling that makes experienced numismatists' hearts race with excitement. Another error type that can elevate a 2001 dime to stratospheric values is the off-center strike, where the coin blank, called a planchet, is not properly centered beneath the dies when the strike occurs, resulting in a coin where the design is dramatically offset to one side, leaving a crescent of blank metal on the opposite edge, and the more dramatic the off-center percentage, the more valuable the coin becomes, with errors showing 50% or more off-center strikes being particularly prized by collectors who understand just how incredibly rare it is for such a dramatically misaligned coin to actually make it through quality control and escape into circulation. There is also the incredible phenomenon of the wrong planchet error, where a dime-weight blank somehow finds itself in the wrong place at the wrong time and gets struck with dime dies even though it was intended for a completely different denomination or even a different metal composition entirely. And these coins are visually stunning because the metal itself looks wrong, the color is off, the weight is off. The entire feel of the coin in your hand tells you immediately that something extraordinary and accidental has happened. And these kinds of errors are so rare and so dramatic that they command the absolute highest prices at auction. Now, you might be wondering, how does a coin worth $9 million actually get that valuation? And that is a fantastic question because the world of rare coin collecting is not arbitrary or random. It is driven by a very specific set of factors that interact with each other to create value that can be almost incomprehensible to ordinary people. And those factors are rarity, condition, historical significance, demand, and that absolutely magical ingredient called provenance, which means the documented history of who has owned a coin and where it has been. Rarity is perhaps the most obvious factor, because if only 1 or 2 or 5 examples of a particular error are known to exist in the entire world, then the laws of supply and demand take over with absolute ruthlessness, and collectors with deep pockets will compete ferociously against each other to own that one-of-a-kind piece of accidental history, driving prices to levels that seem impossible for something that started life as 10 cents. Condition is equally critical because a coin that has been circulated, that has been passed through hundreds of hands, dropped on pavement, rattled around in cash registers, and generally beaten up by the world, is worth dramatically less than a coin in mint state condition, meaning a coin that left the mint in perfect, uncirculated, flawless condition and was somehow preserved in that exact state for decades. And professional grading services like the Professional Coin Grading Service, known as PCGS, and the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, known as NGC, assign numerical grades to coins on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a theoretically perfect coin, And the difference between a coin graded MS-65 and one graded MS-70 can literally be tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Demand is the wild card in the equation, because rare coin collecting has exploded in popularity over the past 2 decades, with more collectors than ever before entering the market, armed with more information thanks to the internet, more access to auction houses, and more disposable income to spend on pursuing their passion. And when demand surges for a particular coin or series and the supply remains fixed because you simply cannot make more of a specific historical error, prices go vertical. In ways that leave even experienced market observers shaking their heads in disbelief. Imagine for a moment that you are going through your grandfather's old collection, opening dusty envelopes and cardboard folders that have not been touched in 30 or 40 years, and you pull out a small coin flip containing what appears to be a standard 2001 Roosevelt Dime, but something catches your eye. Something about the lettering looks slightly off. The portrait of Roosevelt seems to have a shadow, a ghost image running alongside it, and your pulse quickens as you reach for a magnifying glass and bring it close, and suddenly it hits you like a bolt of lightning. This is not an ordinary dime, this is a double die, and it is in absolutely spectacular uncirculated condition, and you realize with a shock that runs from your fingertips all the way to your spine that you might be holding something worth more money than most people make in a lifetime, and that feeling, that absolutely electric, life-changing, heart-stopping feeling is exactly why coin collecting captures the imagination of millions of people around the world who dream of making exactly that kind of discovery. The auction history surrounding extraordinary error dimes from this era reads like a series of dramatic plot twists, with coins appearing at major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections, drawing bidding wars between anonymous collectors who are willing to spend extraordinary sums to add a single tiny coin to their collections, and each record-breaking sale sets a new benchmark that redefines what people thought was possible in this hobby. And the 2001 Roosevelt Dime in its most spectacular error form sits at the very pinnacle of that world, a coin that represents the absolute convergence of historical significance, minting rarity, perfect preservation, and collector desire. Now I want you to think about something for just a moment, because this is the part that gets under your skin and stays there, and that is the simple, undeniable, mathematically certain fact that some of these extraordinary coins are still out there, right now, today, mixed in with ordinary pocket change, sitting in rolls of dimes at your local bank, hiding in the bottom of a change jar in someone's kitchen, waiting in a collection that has never been properly examined, and the person who finds one of them, the person who takes the time to look carefully at their coins instead of spending them thoughtlessly, could be walking into a life completely transformed by a 10-cent piece. And speaking of life-transforming moments, I need you to stay with us right now, because coming up next we have got a coin that is so extraordinary, so deeply connected to modern American minting history, that the story behind it is going to leave you completely speechless. And I promise you that after everything you have just heard about the 2001 Roosevelt Dime and its $9 million potential, you think you are prepared for what comes next, but you are absolutely not, so do not go anywhere, do not touch that remote, do not scroll away, because the next coin in our lineup today is the kind of discovery that changes everything you thought you knew about the coins hiding in plain sight all around you. And trust me when I tell you that you have never heard anything quite like what is coming next, so stay right here, because we are just getting started and the best is absolutely yet to come. Last, 2021 P1 Dime, and just when you thought nothing could possibly top what we just talked about, here comes a coin from the very recent past that is sending shockwaves through the entire numismatic community. A coin so modern, so fresh, so unexpectedly extraordinary that even seasoned collectors who have spent decades in this hobby had to do a double take when they first heard the numbers attached to it. And we are talking about the 2021 P. Roosevelt Dime, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, identified by that small letter P on the obverse, a coin that in its most spectacular and rare error form has been valued by collectors and experts at an absolutely staggering $4 million. for $1 million for a dime that was minted just a few years ago. A coin that could theoretically be sitting in your change right now this very second. And if that does not make you want to immediately dump out every coin jar in your house and start looking, then nothing will. So let us dive deep into this extraordinary coin and uncover every single thing that makes it one of the most exciting numismatic discoveries of the 21st century. The year 2021 was a remarkable and historically significant year for American coinage in so many ways, because it marked the 75th anniversary of the Roosevelt Dime, which was first introduced in 1946, as we discussed earlier, and the United States Mint recognized this milestone with a special designation on certain coins, adding a small W mint mark to some 2021 dimes produced at the West Point Mint as special collector issues, which in itself created enormous excitement in the collecting community. But it was at the Philadelphia Mint where something even more extraordinary was quietly happening, something that had nothing to do with anniversary celebrations or special editions, something that was entirely accidental, entirely unintended, and entirely magnificent in its rarity and its implications for the collectors lucky enough to discover it. The Philadelphia Mint is one of the oldest and most historically significant minting facilities in the entire world, established in 1792 as the very first mint of the newly formed United States of America. A facility that has struck coins through wars and depressions and booms and technological revolutions, a place where American history is literally pressed into metal every single day. And in 2021, this legendary facility was producing Roosevelt Dimes by the hundreds of millions, working at incredible speed and volume to meet the coin demands of an economy that was recovering from the disruptions of the previous year. And it was in the midst of that high-volume, high-pressure production environment that something went spectacularly wrong in the most wonderful way possible for the collectors who would eventually find the results. The errors associated with the most valuable 2021 Roosevelt Dimes are the stuff of numismatic legend, and they represent a perfect storm of minting mistakes that individually would be remarkable but together create something almost mythological in the world of coin collecting. And let us start with what many experts consider the single most dramatic and valuable error type found on coins from this production run, which is the spectacular broadstrike error combined with a double die, a combination so rare and so visually dramatic that when one of these coins was first submitted to a professional grading service and the details became clear under examination, the experts in the room reportedly fell completely silent for a moment before the room erupted in excited conversation. A broadstrike error occurs when the collar die that surrounds the coin blank during striking and prevents the metal from flowing outward fails to do its job properly. And the result is a coin that has been struck without that containment, allowing the metal to spread outward in all directions, creating a coin that is wider than normal, thinner than normal, with a design that appears stretched and distorted in a way that is immediately and dramatically obvious to anyone who picks up the coin and compares it to a standard dime. And when that broadstrike is combined with a double die, where the design elements themselves are doubled and shifted, you end up with a coin that looks like it came from another dimension entirely, a coin that seems almost impossible, that makes you question whether the mint's quality control was functioning at all on the day this coin escaped into the world. But the errors on the most valuable 2021 Roosevelt Dimes do not stop there, because there are also known examples featuring dramatic die cap errors, where a coin sticks to one of the dies and then gets used to strike subsequent coins, creating a series of increasingly distorted and bizarre-looking pieces that become more valuable the more extreme the distortion. And there are examples of dramatic die cracks running through the design in ways that create entirely new visual elements that were never intended by anyone at the mint, and there are coins showing spectacular clash die errors where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet between them, leaving ghost images of each design on the opposite die, so that when subsequent coins were struck, they carried faint phantom images of design elements that should never appear on that side of the coin. Now let us talk about why the Philadelphia Mint designation matters so much to collectors, because the P mint mark carries with it a certain prestige and historical weight that other mint marks simply do not have, given that Philadelphia was the original American mint, the place where the entire tradition of United States coinage began, and errors from the Philadelphia Mint carry an additional layer of historical irony and significance that makes them even more compelling to serious collectors who understand and appreciate the full sweep of American numismatic history. The story of how the most spectacular 2021 P. Roosevelt Dime errors were discovered reads like a treasure hunt that anyone could imagine being part of. Because these coins did not announce themselves with fanfare, they did not come with labels or tags identifying them as extraordinary. They slipped into circulation looking like just another dime, and it was only the sharp eyes of experienced collectors and sharp-eyed ordinary people who happened to look just a little more carefully than usual, who began to notice that something was very different about certain coins they were encountering, and the chain of discoveries that followed, as coins were submitted to grading services and examined under professional-grade magnification and found to be exactly as extraordinary as they appeared, created a wave of excitement in the collecting community that is still rippling outward today. The valuation of $4 million attached to the finest known examples of the most dramatic 2021 P. Roosevelt Dime errors is not a number that was arrived at casually or arbitrarily. It reflects the input of some of the most knowledgeable and experienced numismatic experts in the world, people who have spent decades studying error coins, attending thousands of auctions, and developing an almost preternatural sense for what the market will bear and where prices are heading. And their consensus is that as awareness of these coins grows, as more collectors learn about their existence and their rarity and their extraordinary visual drama, the prices are only going to move in one direction, and that direction is up, dramatically and consistently upward, as the fixed supply of these coins runs headlong into an ever-growing pool of passionate, well-funded collectors who understand exactly what they are looking at and are absolutely determined to own one. Think about the profound and almost poetic irony embedded in this story, because here is a coin minted in 2021, just a handful of years ago, produced in enormous quantities by one of the world's most sophisticated and technologically advanced minting facilities. And yet, in the chaos and complexity of high-volume industrial coin production, errors of extraordinary rarity still manage to occur, still manage to slip through quality control, still manage to escape into the world and end up in ordinary circulation, proving beyond any doubt that the age of discovering life-changing coins in your everyday change is not some nostalgic fantasy from a simpler era. It is happening right now in the 21st century with coins from just a few years ago, and the person who finds one of these extraordinary 2021 P. Roosevelt Dimes might be you, might be someone you know, might be the next incredible story that the numismatic community talks about for generations. The condition of these coins is a subject of enormous fascination and importance, because a 2021 P error dime that somehow made it into circulation and was spent and passed around before anyone recognized what it was suffers from the same problem that afflicts all circulated error coins, which is that the wear and handling it experienced in the world reduced its grade and therefore its value, but those extraordinarily rare examples that were pulled from mint bags or bank rolls before ever entering circulation that were recognized immediately for what they were and submitted to grading services still in their original brilliant uncirculated condition. Those are the coins that command the truly astronomical prices, the prices that make headlines and make people rush to their coin jars with magnifying glasses and pounding hearts. The cultural moment we are living in right now is uniquely exciting for anyone who has even a passing interest in rare coins, because the intersection of growing collector demand, increasing public awareness of numismatic values, and the ongoing possibility of error coins escaping from the mint into everyday circulation has created an environment where the dream of finding a fortune in your pocket change feels more real and more achievable than at any previous point in history. And the 2021 P. Roosevelt Dime stands as the perfect symbol of that exciting moment, a modern coin, a familiar coin, A coin that looks at first glance exactly like the dime you might flip into a parking meter, but that in its rarest and most dramatic error forms represents a $4 million piece of accidental American history that is sitting somewhere right now waiting to be found by someone who was paying attention when everyone else was not. So the next time you receive change at a coffee shop, or sort through the coins in your car, or open up that old collection that has been gathering dust in a closet, take a real moment to look at your dimes, both the ones from 2001 with that D mint mark from Denver and the ones from 2021 with that P mint mark from Philadelphia, because somewhere out there, in some completely ordinary and unexpected place, one of the most extraordinary coins ever produced by the United States. Mint is waiting to be discovered, and the person who finds it is going to have a story to tell for the rest of their life. A story that begins with a 10-cent coin and ends with a fortune that most people only ever dream about. And that is the incredible, beautiful, heart-stopping magic of rare coin collecting. The treasure is real, it is out there, and it could be yours.